Oh, since we were talking about Eric Lipinski, um, we just talked to Sean McElwee, who is out there and pissed about the DCCC protecting, in particular, it's Dan Lipinski, not Eric Lipinski. Why'd you put Eric Lipinski there? Isn't it? Huh? Oh, you ran cross country with him. Okay. But it's Dan Lipinski. And here is New York Times reporter Jonathan Martin talking about what we were just talking about.
But I was in Chicago the last couple of days on this story, talking to activists out there, progressive activists, and I'll tell you what, they are sick of this congressman who has been there for about 10 years now. His dad had the seat before him. It is a seat that looks a lot like the ones that AOC won in New York and Presley won in Boston last year. Historically, kind of cops and firefighters, working class Polish and Irish, now much more affluent and diverse. And Congressman, I think, is facing some real challenges going into next year. He won by 2 points last year in his primary, facing the same challenger next year. And the question is, will Democrats support somebody who on this central issue isn't with them?
So they're talking about that challenge by Marie Newman to Dan Lipinski. And this could be the year that Dan Lipinski goes. And that's why, we were mentioning, I just want to reiterate this. So many times, the fight that you're looking at is really just the shadow of the real fight that's going on. And so the DCCC, they don't care about Dan Lipinski, more than likely. They just need to set a precedent. And they need to be able to go and say, look at who we would protect. If we had Dan Lipinski's back, I don't even need to make the case to you that we have your back. Because obviously we do. And if Dan Lipinski, we help Dan Lipinski win, then I got news for you. Anybody who's going to challenge somebody whose credentials are not so horrific as Dan Lipinski's, forget about it. You don't even need to come. Don't even bother.
Yeah, it's a show of force. Right?
It's a show of force. It is the, on some level, it's like that Fonzie theory where he told Richie Cunningham. Of course, I don't know if you guys know Happy Days. It's an old, yeah.
This is where he hits the music box.
He hits the jukebox. But he basically told Richie Cunningham, I hit one guy once, and I've never had to hit anybody again. This also reminds me, and you can go back and listen to this. I don't know when we did this interview, maybe in 2012, where Shannon Moore up in Alaska, used to do talk radio up there, was fighting for Pebble Mine, and that has come back around. But she told me this story about going in with the lawyers for Pebble Mine. They want a mine in this area that is like the number one source of wild salmon in the country. And the part about this story, I specifically remember, she went in there with all sorts of facts and figures. She made the case. She had the case. She showed it to the lawyers. She had an opportunity to sit down with lawyers and explain it to them. She was like, I'm convinced that this is going to be a no-brainer for them. And at the end, they were like, we don't care about Pebble Mine. We don't care about this or any of that. We're fighting this so hard because we cannot let the EPA win. We cannot let activists win. Because if we do, that puts in jeopardy all the other places. We don't care about this one thing, but we will fight to the death for it because this one thing implicates the whole world for us. And I think that's what's going on with Dan Lipinski for the DCCC. Less about Dan Lipinski, more about the precedent it sets. And that's the way that you should view this and why it should be important to progressives. Because this is the fight that it's not just about Dan Lipinski. Understand, it's basically saying we start with Lipinski and then we come to you unless you start voting better. That's basically it. That's, frankly, the way it worked with the Republicans. That's, at the time it wasn't the Tea Party. It was Grover Norquist and Club for Growth. And I remember in Pennsylvania, I think it's years ago, was it the Senate, the senator from there before, when it was just, I can't remember his name now, but he died. But Pat Toomey was running against him. And everybody's like, that guy's a loon. He's never going to win. And they kept pushing and pushing, and eventually he ran a couple of times. He won. And that's basically what I think the era we are in on the left.
It's pretty rich of Lipinski to say that shunning, this is how we got President Trump. People felt like they weren't welcome in the party.
That is just bizarre.
It does bear mentioning, though, like the forces pulling the Republican Party to quote unquote the right. I guess we talk about this a lot, like how much of this is Trump and how much of it is just normal Republican stuff. I think they went a little bit easier to the right than the Democratic Party would go to the left. But we'll see.
Well, yeah. I think that is too. I think that's too narrow of a perspective. I think they started out more to the right than the delta between the Democrats and the left. A. B. I would also say that there was far more resources behind the Tea Party that were distinct from the Republican Party in terms of like Koch money and whatnot. I mean, the Koch brothers,
it's not like a people-powered, people versus money grassroots thing,
right? And the Koch brothers have an electoral, basically a data operation that dwarfs the Republican Party now. And so they have, I mean, in many respects, I think I used to describe it as it's Coke and Pepsi. They're all the same industry. There's just different companies in there. And the difference between the Coke and the Pepsi is not so great.
You know what a fun thing about the rise of the Nazi Party in Germany was? About the businessmen. They did fund the Nazi Party, but they also funded everything else on the right, too. It was just the Nazis who could get the popularity behind it.
Right. They're throwing down 1,000 seeds will bloom, and theirs just happened to catch. On the left, you're just not seeding as many different places. And so it's structural. It's much harder, without a doubt. And the left will never, well, I don't know if never, but part of it also on the right was that they promoted this. They built their Frankenstein. They just thought that they could control it.